All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. We'd love you to support this show. Please like, follow, and subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Your likes and subscription helps us to grow and attract interviews and content. So please retweet and share our posts. Your contributions are appreciated. All right, we are live. It's episode 443 of the KissFAQ Podcast. Welcome to everyone. Lonnie, St. Louis Kiss, 69th Blizzard Ken, Marcus Almighty Mark. We've got the gang back together, and I'm going to start off this show with the same old question because I can actually say, yes, I did buy some Kiss shit this week. I don't know if anyone else did other than the Creatures box, but I dropped the coin for the stupid snow globe from the cruise. One of my friends came back, he had two, and I'm like, how much you want for it? Okay, sold, because that is just cornball, the kind of thing that actually tickled me pink, just shaking it up and doing the confetti. I know they've had other snow globes before, but I've never been interested in until I saw that, so I am guilty. All right, so today's episode is going to be all about the Creatures of the Night, Super Deluxe or box set, the reissue. We're going to go through a few different formats here. Going to talk, primarily about the music, but also about some of the chalk-keys, but some of the guys are still waiting on their product, which I guess is a recurrent theme going through interwebs that a lot of people are still not received them. I bought the Super Deluxe from Amazon. It got here on the evening of release day, damaged, so I had to send it back, and I got I got the replacement the following day, and I'd already opened it up, to see the internal damage if it went all the way through, or whether it was something I was going to be able to live with. And I decided, not for that price point, even though I got it at $177. Who's got what, and who's waiting on what? Ken, let's start with you.
Like you, I got the Super Deluxe on the release date, so I did get that. I am still waiting for my vinyl, both the half speed and the triple vinyl, waiting for that stuff to come. It seems like it was shipped over a week ago. It was shipped over like a week and 2 days ago, and it's still, the last thing I saw, it left Kansas or something 2 days ago. So I don't know where the heck it is. It's FedEx, but who knows?
Yeah, I ordered the triple vinyl from Kiss Online, and it shipped. So I'm waiting on that. And then I forgot that I'd ordered it from Kiss Online and ordered it from Universal. And a shipping label was generated on the 18th. And after that, it's dropped off the face of the earth. It was never scanned by any receiving agent. I then bought the regular CD, and it's apparently shipped. And I'm still waiting on my Des Moines CD, so I have no idea if they just held everything to ship in one packet, but somehow I don't think their corporate efficiency actually rises to that level in distribution. Mark, what do you got? What are you waiting on?
Well, first thing that I got is a headache because of this fucking shit as usual, because Kiss never ceases to amaze me with the stupidity of this stuff that when they do this. I ordered the 3LP blue vinyl. Of course, it's not here, much like Ken's. Last time I checked, it's in Chicago. Ask me how many days it's been in Chicago. Okay, I'll tell you. It's 4 days now it's been there. 4 fucking days it's been sitting in Chicago. Like, what are they doing?
Spent 4 days in Chicago.
Did they go and bust out a record player in the mailing room there and start playing and say, hey, this is a good shit, man. Let's just hold on to it for a few days, and then we'll repackage it and send it to them. So I'm getting really exceedingly pissed off with this, because I said to myself last time, no, don't order from Kiss Online. Okay, I'll give them a chance. Everybody's saying, oh, it's so much better now. Yeah, but, okay.
Well,
they mailed
it.
To
be fair, it left Kiss Online.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's still connected to them somehow. I guarantee you. Their choices of mailing is incredible. And Ken, did you just say that you're just coming through FedEx? You said.
Yeah, it's FedEx.
So FedEx is
shows.
supposed to be like a guaranteed delivery thing. Okay. So what the hell's going on here with this? Like this is
Next year.
complete stupidity. Anyways, I got through, and you know what, Kiss, you can shove it with this. I got myself an illegal copy of the deluxe audio because I knew because I knew this kind of stupid shit would happen. And so I have a copy of it, so you can cram that, because now at least I was able to listen to everything and be prepared for it. But I did buy the proper 40th anniversaries deluxe CD. So I got that. And just to show my love of OG, I busted out this week my OG Brazilian copy of Kiss Creatures of Night. Sounds fantastic. And so I love the album. Why I'm so angry? Because I love this album. I wanted to have my stuff and be able to show off my blue vinyl. And I'm not the only one. Go online and look. There's tons of people who are saying the same shit. So who's that? Bali Rodder? I'm not the only one who's whining. Go online and take a look for yourself.
Yeah, and if you really want to, participate in some whining, go join one of the WASP groups, because those engines are pretty loud there. So we have just witnessed an angry Canadian.
Ring the bell. Mark's fired up.
I know. Now Mark's supposed to apologize, as Canadians are wont to do at the drop of a hat. Surfer fan, nice comment. We're not working. We're hanging out with friends, but thank you as well for joining us. Obviously we weren't going to do this episode on Thursday, which was Thanksgiving in the US, and that is my favorite holiday of the year. So we've just held off to do a live up because, you know what, we've got the technology and it's fun to hang out and see the comments coming through while we're talking about this stuff, because it does remind us sometimes of things that I don't have any notes for this. So Lonnie, what do you got? What are you waiting on?
I got a downloaded version of it that I've been listening to for the last week, I guess. I'm waiting on Super Deluxe. I'm probably we decided I'm just gonna get that for Christmas, because it's a little pricey, and but I got a download version of it that I'm listening to in the meantime, so I can still enjoy the music. I went to Walmart this morning, actually, on my way to the gym, because I had seen people getting versions of it at Walmart for like $15. I'm like, oh shit! If I can pick it up for $15 at Walmart this morning, I will. But the one by me had zero, no CDs, no vinyl at all. So that's Walmart for you, though. So
Yeah.
I've been listening to it a lot for the last week, and we'll get into it. But I'm waiting on my Super Deluxe for another month.
Yeah, another month. Santa's going to bring it. Well, he's going to combine. That's how you save on shipping. But it is what it is. Obviously, there's a lot of comments in the threads about people who are still waiting on it. It's the same online. You know what? It is what it is. When we start saying, that USPS or other handling services don't have employees, all the excuses that we can come up with, it is really just first world problems. We're waiting for tangible shit. Our electricity's still on and we're not getting bombed. So let's look at the positive side of life. So let's get into the box. The box itself is absolutely beautiful, but I want to start off focusing on the music, because that to me is where my interest lies and what's the most important thing. And when you're giving a deluxe treatment to an album, you want to have audio that really holds it up, that illustrates what that actual released product went through to become what it is, and also give you a little bit more insight into the creative process. So let's start off with the remaster CD. And, just go around. What are your impressions of the remaster? Do you think it's worthy? Is it better than previous ones, or is it not going to topple, your go-to previous listening experience? And it's only fair to go to Canada first, with Mark being an audiophile. And since you brought out your OG copy, and that's still a very fine listening experience, those vinyl rips that I listen to are still excellent. But what do you think of the remaster that's been done for the 2022 edition?
I like it. It turned out good. Maybe a touch heavy on the low end, maybe a touch, but nothing to scream home about, or to file any sort of, or better yet, nothing bad enough for me to do another huge Canadian rant. Okay, so it sounds good. I enjoyed it. I think overall, the stuff that you get on the CD is very good. I think that I have no complaints about this at all, because you get a good overview of the rarities and the outtakes on here, and you do get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Yeah, 7 live tracks as well. So you don't feel shortchanged, I think, on this. Sure, obviously, if you had the deluxe, and like I've heard, like I have, and you guys have heard, there are some things that maybe you would have preferred than what's on here. But I'm very happy with it. I think that the original demos are cool that are on here. Some of the selections of the alternate takes are good. The guitar and drum instrumental things are good. It's fascinating. For me, I find those things really interesting because it shows the construction of the song. And when I release my own records, I offer that too as part of a bonus discs that I offer, where I show a construction of a whole song. I'll just do drums, then drums and guitar, then drums and bass and guitar, and show the construction of the song as I recorded it. And lots of people seem interested in that as well. So I'm guessing that this will tickle the fancy of a few people, not just myself. And the booklet, great stuff. I mean, I'm sure with the vinyl, you're going to get a bigger copy of it and more easily legible. But there's great stuff in here. There's great photos. There's great commentary about the making of the record and the promotion of the record. And this is a great photo. I had a poster of this before on my wall.
Yeah, and we'll get into those details later. Yeah. But let's get around on just the remaster itself for now.
Okay, sorry.
Of the traditional 9-song album, because that is actually being sold as a standalone product, and that's one that I'm still working on from Universal.
Thumbs up on the
Lonnie, you've been to the gym with this, haven't you? This music.
That's what I've been listening to all week.
All right, how's the remaster measure up against the 97 or previous versions? And are you going to chuck any of those in the garbage?
It's a little clearer than the 97 remaster. I think it sounds good. I don't know if it's that much noticeable difference, because I'm still really happy with those 97 remasters. They still sound really, really good in my opinion. But it is a little bit better, I think. I think it is a little bit clearer and a little bit louder maybe. But it's good. It holds up. I don't know how much better you can get than those 97s. I really like those 97s, obviously. But it's good. It holds up. Really good. No complaints.
Ken, how about you?
You're muted.
What? Okay.
There you are.
I didn't compare the CD to the music to the original or the remaster, but from my ears it sounds a little louder, but it's definitely, like Lonnie said, very clear. Everything is, they didn't brick wall it or anything like that. You can still hear the separation well for the instruments and so on. It's very, it's a good job. I was waiting for the vinyl, because what I really wanted to compare is the half speed vinyl to the my original OG promo copy, and do a real comparison there. So I'll have to wait until I'll report on that next week, I guess.
Yeah, so Jerry, thank you for translating the vernacular for OG. It's old school. It's just a euphemism, to relate to the original version. The remaster is loud. It is bricked. There's no way around that. But, Creatures is an album that can handle it. Some albums can't handle it. This one is hot, and I'm actually finding it very appealing. Am I going to make that my go-to listen after an extended period, or am I going to go back to my Japanese P33C series from 1986, which is as close to the original vinyl in transfers as my tastes find, because that's really been the one that I've listened to for many years, and the mastering of that plus the P33 Killers, just it's superlative. But this sounds great. It's bombastic, and it also, by making it hot, it actually keeps it about the same across all the discs. So it gives it a uniformity that really works. Jamie Ingram brings up a good point on it. That seems a little heavy on the bottom.
I said that.
Yeah, and that is the whole kind of issue with Creatures. Is that was often seemed to be the case, and that's why they remixed the title track in '85 to dial it back a little.
Now, just one thing really quickly. I mean, I don't think that that's that big a thing. I mean, the bottom end, it's not like it's, making needles jump out of the style, out of the record or something like that when they're playing it, but it is a bit heavier. The CDs obviously will take it no problem. I'm sure the vinyl is going to have no issue with the remaster either. But I was just curious though, if Julian, if you have an answer for this. I think I put a comment on the board about this, or on the Facebook. The half speed remaster, are they doing the same plates for that as the one that you get with the blue vinyl? Is that also a half speed, or is it that's not totally different?
It's different.
Completely different. You've got the 9 tracks only on the half speed master. That's a traditional original format, just half speed mastered, versus triple vinyl, which is combined. So
no, but what I mean is but the original, but in the 3 LP you have the original album plus you have the other
on disc one. I don't know actually.
I mean, I would think that they would have
the triple are not half speed mastered,
because then they'd be advertising the triple as also includes half speed mastered. So you'd have to look at the run out groove on both of those to be able to compare it. And since I don't have any vinyl yet, it's a little bit difficult to do. So that's a question to everyone out there, is if you've got the half speed master and you've already got your blue triple, does it have the same run out etching codes? So, all right. So I guess it's kind of around the table. Everyone's pretty happy with the remaster itself. Let's move on to disc 2, and that is demos, rarities, and outtakes. And I'm going to have a real difficult time picking between disc 2 and disc 3, which one wins here, because this one starts off with remasters of the 4 Kiss Killers tracks. The Penny Lane demos those are actually January and February 1981, way pre-Elder. And then original demos of 2 of those songs, which I didn't know existed. So those were, very happy moments. And then multiple takes of, other stuff that was constructed primarily during the Kiss Killer session. So early March and April 1982. And if I flub any of my dates, I'm only talking about 82 for the most part. So Ken, let's start with you on disc 2. I mean, what were some of the standouts, and what were some of the material included that let you down, or you didn't feel really worked?
Well, most of it was fantastic. Nothing really totally let me down. There's highs and just a few lows maybe, but things like obviously Deadly Weapons, obviously great song, great demo, and then even like the Penny Lane stuff. Feels Like Heaven, I enjoyed the heck out of that, even though it's more disco, disco-ish or whatever you want to call it. It's very, very cool song. And then of course the Killer demos or the Killer songs sound great on there. The great mastering. Let's see. That one's really happened. What else did I write down here? Something Seems to Happen at Night is okay. It's kind of different. We've heard it before.
Yeah, it was on the vault.
Yeah. But it's interesting. Every time I hear that, I think of a soundtrack. It's like a soundtrack song for something like Flashdance or something like that. One of those movies. It's Gonna Be All Right. That's okay too. That's pretty good. So I mean, everything's really cool on it. Sounds great. The Tell to a Fool. I mean, and Chrome Goes Into Motion. It's unfortunate that there's really no singing. Mute, that sort of thing. I would have rather had more panned out or full demo that had that was closer to maybe getting to or on an album, that is. That would have been great. And Don't Leave Me Lonely, that. So yeah, and then instrumentals, that's all fine. It's kind of interesting to hear, because you hear things that you don't normally hear when you have vocals and other stuff going on. So, but for the most part, everything's great. Really, no real misses.
Yeah, I think for me, I'll just blow through my opinion quickly because I did write a very long article that's available on the
Oh, yes.
FAQ for anyone who wants to go through 35 pages of me pontificating. But I love the mastering of the Killers tracks that start off. They flow perfectly with Creatures now. The demos, we've finally got the pristine copies of the Penny Lane demos that we wanted. You know, it doesn't torpedo the possibility, I guess, for an Elder box, because they can just go on there again to tell that part of the story, but that they were revisited was unknown. That I didn't know. And we see the real box was copied at the beginning of the Killer sessions. And that, again, is one of the key things. You have to go through the Gotham Rock City News and the book to get a lot of these details and the scans of the track sheets. You know, so Don't Leave Me Lonely. People are like, well, that's all there is. Why didn't they release all of it? You look at the track sheets, that's all he recorded at the time. That is all that's on there. You look at Chrome Goes Into Motion. That's it. Tell It to a Fool, which is another pre-Elder track. That's from Toronto, May 1981, where they originally cut it as Sentimental Fool. Again, you get more of the story there. There's a scratch vocal on there that wasn't included, so maybe it was really scatty and didn't sound good. You know, you do get scat vocals throughout this, as you hear during the Deadly Weapons demo, which really show it being fleshed out at Ace in the Hole. That's where those songs were really born. But this disc just leaves me asking one question. Who the hell was Gene Simmons in 1982? Because none of that shit is demon-like. It's great music. I love how broad his interest and musicality are and some of the people that he's working with. But he is so far away from what he started off from that he's lost in the ether, completely lost. He has no sense of character anymore when he's doing stuff like Something Seems to Happen at Night. It's a good song. It's going to be all right. A great song. Love that back. I wish there was a better, fidelity demo, but that's all they've got. But it really begs the question, who is Gene Simmons at the time? And that's why I think it's pretty clear that it's all Paul on Kiss Killers. Lonnie.
I think that's an excellent point. I mean, look, the stuff Gene's turning out is way different than what we had come to know and what we would expect, versus what ended up, this stuff is like, and versus what ended up on Creatures. Really, really unusual. I think those four Killers tracks to start off the disc are the best versions of them I've ever heard. They are really clear and really, really flow with the vein of Creatures. They're really, really great sounding. We're talking about what will be your go-to version moving forward. I think this version of those songs will be my go-to version of those songs moving forward. They're really, really excellent. The Penny Lane stuff might be my favorite stuff on the disc, though. Deadly Weapon, it sounds really, really great on this. And as does Feel Like Heaven, as different as it sounds. I was listening to Disc 2 in the kitchen the other day. My wife comes down and she's like, I was listening to Feel Like Heaven. She's like, what are you listening to? Again, the Julian's point, Gene sounds so different that, I said this is, Creatures Deluxe thing. She's like, really? I'm like, yeah, that's weird. She doesn't have much of an opinion of Kiss, but she really, really was taken back that was Kiss. So some of the more unforgettable stuff, I guess really is the Nowhere to Run, not the Nowhere to Run, the Tell It to a Fool and Chrome Goes Into Motion. Like it's fine, but I don't know how much after I really completely digest the box that I'll go back and listen to, seek out those tracks. You know what I mean?
You won't be spitting that every weekend, no?
Right. Those aren't I'm gonna go seek out those. That's you listen to that when you listen to the disc. It's not and it's fine, but they're a little more forgettable, obviously. But it's a great disc. It's it's really interesting that you look at just this disc by itself and how this stuff transforms into what we get on Creatures, where none of these songs are on Creatures, and it's interesting to see from where we started to what we end up with.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that disc 2 is the transitionary Kiss Killers related disc.
Yeah.
Mark, your take on all of that and any standouts and stuff that it lets you down?
Well, I mean, two things stand out, or one thing stands out, and one thing kind of came to me when I was listening to this. First of all, Eric Carr on this, fantastic. His drumming on this, like even the instrumental stuff. I mean, this just shows how integral he was to the sound of this album. His drumming on this, even just the demos and the bass and drum instrumentals and stuff like that. I mean, you can still hear the power in it. I mean, there's that one song. I'm not sure if it's. I think is it going to be all right? That's just acoustic guitar and drums, I think, or something like that.
No, so Don't Leave Me Lonely. It's just
okay. Yeah. I mean, even that, it has such a like ridiculous sounding acoustic guitar, but it has this huge, powerful drum performance with it. You know, it's like ding, 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 this huge drum with it's like it almost sounded like laughable at first when I first heard it. I was like, what the hell is this? But then I thought back to my own times of writing songs, like, yeah, well, he just probably put that down as a guide, you know, and then did the drums to it. But that just hit me like right between the eyes that Eric Carr is the man on this album. Like, honestly, you keep saying Paul Stanley is, you know, it's Paul Stanley's album. No, I disagree. This is Eric Carr's album. Without him and his performance on this, I don't think it would have been anywhere near as good. Number two, the remaster of the Killer stuff, great, fantastic. I love it. Why? And of course, it's a good idea, so they wouldn't do it, of course. Why they didn't take those 4 remasters, press them onto a 10-inch, and put it as like a extra in the box, just a 10-inch LP of the Killer stuff. I don't know why they didn't do it. It's like, what a great idea that would have been to have that on a 10-inch remastered, nicely done, maybe with a couple of new pictures in on the back and front. I think that would have been an amazing thing to do. I mean, look at the Beatles did something similar like that when they did the latest box, I think.
Yeah, so single in
Revolver.
Yeah, you know, why not do something like that? Make a 10-inch of just the Killers stuff. People would have snapped that up in a heartbeat. I guarantee it. The Penny Lane demo is great. I love it. Actually, the funny thing is, I was extremely impressed with the Feel Like Heaven original demo. Why? Because even though it sounds very disco-y, that version, I'm impressed that Gene was able to translate and give the listener a perfect rendition of the song, just drums and a bass guitar. Like if you think about it, he's just singing to a drum machine beat for most of it until his bass comes in. And the only other thing besides that bass is these huge, lush backing vocals that he does with it. You know, that there's not a lot on there recorded, and he made me actually go through that song and somewhat enjoy it. You know, there's no huge guitars, no production. It was just bass, drums, and vocals. I mean, unbelievable. I got to tip my hat to Gene for that. You know, and some of the other ones, you know, it makes more sense now because I don't have the box set, so I didn't know about this, you know, this Gotham newspaper thing where it was talking about how they only had these things recorded for each song. So that makes a lot more sense in retrospect when you think about that they only recorded these things for the instrumentals, right? But they were interesting. It always makes you wonder what they could have did or how it would have ended, you know, if they would have continued on to it. But yeah, I'm very happy with disc 2 overall. I think there's some real standout things on there, and also that something seems to happen at night. I agree. It reminds me of a scene in like Miami Vice, like the late night scene. He's driving through the streets, you know, pondering his lost love or something. But it's, you know, Gene has always been known, I think, as somebody who never stuck with one direction musically. He tried everything. He's that, you know, throw it on the wall and see if it sticks guy, right? So he was definitely throwing a lot of stuff on the wall, and probably a lot of it didn't stick, obviously. But it's interesting to see, you know, what kind of songs he could write and, you know, what worked and what didn't work. So, but I think that disc 2 is a very good disc, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, we'll ask the question, disc 2 or disc 3, after we've talked about disc 3. But I think Gene's bravery is clear, and Feel Like Heaven. There was actually a drum drops was a release in the late 70s, which was just drum loops that you could then create demos from, and that was what he was using for a lot of his material. So that's what it's based around. I think I ID'd which one it actually was. But also, Something Seems to Happen at Night is just because he liked that song, and so he recorded a vocal for it. So, you know, he was brave, but none of that stuff works within a Kiss context, even
No.
an elderfied ones. Let's move. Actually, I want to just go back to one other point. The "Don't Leave Me Lonely," the acoustic guitar. That's exactly how they tracked.
Mhm.
They tracked with a god awful acoustic first, or a lowbrow electric. Just threw down a guitar track, then did the drums. Drums are the foundation to everything on Creatures, and from that time with Michael James Jackson, everything about it. You listen to the difference between Nowhere to Run, Cut at Penny Lane versus Cut with Michael James. Different drumming, completely different, and you get to dig into some of that when you on the instrumentals for Nowhere to Run and I'm a Legend Tonight, to really hear the nuance without the vocals on top, which is very cool. Deconstruction. All right. Disc 3. Lonnie, let's go to you on that. Again, high points, low points, if any.
Disc 3, is excellent too. Now we're getting into, Disc 2 was stuff that where no songs ended up on the album. Now we're looking at, for the most part, songs that ended up on the albums and different versions and takes of them. For the most part, anyway, really, really good. Legends Never Die. We heard that on the Vaults, and it's good. It stands up. It's a great song. I think the It's My Life it kind of puts to bed, like, this is the best versions of the song that are available. Kiss fans love that song. I love that song. And then we got the version that ended up on the Vault. We got this version. I think we can finally put to bed what versions of the song are out there, and what are the best versions of the song. Julian says no, so pardon the hell out of me.
Wow.
Anyway, apparently Julian's sitting on something. Multiple versions of Saint and Sinner, Rock and Roll Hell. There's a lot of versions of Rock and Roll Hell in this box. I feel like I've listened to Rock and Roll Hell about 60 times the last week. Man, I've listened to a lot of that song. If talking about complaints, if there's one complaint, like how many different versions of Rock and Roll Hell do I really need to hear? But we're Kiss fans and we're completists. We want everything that's possibly available. It's really, really good. But I enjoy it though at the same time, and as well as the different versions of Saint and Sinner and the Betrayed single that we got leading out to the box set. The 85 Creatures remix, it makes sense that why it's on there. Let's just give you everything that's there. Obviously, it's not my favorite versions of Creatures in the Night. It just sounds like a neutered version of Creatures.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it's a really, really good disc. I enjoy the hell out of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I rolled my eyes at you about It's My Life. I present a theory in that long article that I wrote that yes, and they do address it in the Gotham Rock City News, back on the streets, that they went through the vault and that it's not there. So what does that mean? How many of these things are myths that we fans have built up? But again, when it comes to stuff like Legends Never Die and It's My Life, my theory, completely unprovable, is that Gene took the master tapes with him when he went to work on Wendy O. Williams' album, and that those original master multitracks reside in that label's vault and its successor, because Gem and Passport are no longer entities. So I think it was Warner that owns that intellectual property and likely inherited those vaults. If at all, they may have been chucked out, but it would make sense if those Wendy O. Williams recordings were built on top of Kiss songs for those multi-tracks to have been utilized for that purpose and no longer be under the control of Universal. So that's simply my theory. Ken, let's go to you on your thoughts about disc 3.
Yeah, disc 3 is a real good disc. A couple of things. Legends Never Die. Yes, I always enjoy that. We know it from the Wendy Williams version too. But that's obviously a real good song that could have made it to the album, I'm thinking. It's My Life. Yeah, well, you may be right, Julian, that maybe it was on the Wendy's over at the other label or whatever.
That sounds plausible. Yeah.
But I also think this too is Gene brought it in to Paul, and Paul just nixed it. He never really liked the song for whatever reason. So I kind of blame Paul for that. For never making the
Team Gene through and through.
But great things, like Not for the Innocent, obviously with the trade-off vocals and everything. Just, it's just fantastic. I don't know which one I like better. I like the Lick It Up one, it's more darker kind of song on Lick It Up versus, this demo with them trading. But I like both. They're both fantastic. Saint and Sinners, yeah, there's a few takes there. Those are all great. Betrayed is fantastic, which we've heard the preview of that out there already for people. The full War Machine, fantastic extended War Machine. And I don't know which one I like better of those. I mean, they're both really good, but it has a little extended guitar and other stuff going on at the end. It kind of extends that ending. So really good. That was kind of cool to hear. Rock and Roll Hell is always good. I always love that song. I know Lonnie said there's so many freaking versions of that one. But one of the things is that was it. Gene said he doesn't know why I think Legends Never Die. He said that on that newspaper, why that didn't make the album, because he thought it should have been on the album. I guess he liked it, that much. The other thing is on the newspaper, Paul talks about a great demo of Creatures of the Night, 16 track version. Why he talks about it, but we don't get it. The demo, he says, is a great Creatures 16 track demo, and I'm like, oh well, where is it? It's not even on here. So I would have loved to hear it if it's great. Let's hear that. He's mentioning it, so I don't know where the hell that got left. They could have maybe swapped the song that brought that in instead of the Creatures remix, or something,
or a version of Rock and Roll Hell.
Oh yeah. One of those versions, because we got a lot of versions of that, and I Still Love You going on. So the lesser songs that I like on disc 3 are like I Still Love You. It's good, but I didn't really need the Creatures alternate mix. Partners in Crime alternate mix was all good. Love It Loud alternate mix. I can hear too much difference. It's different, but it's okay. Nothing really stood out to me on that. And then they have the single edit of that, which is of course interesting. And then that's about it. Otherwise, it's all mostly just great stuff to listen to and pick out little things here and there that we've never heard before.
Yeah, so this disc for me is where you really get into the construction of the album. Legends and It's My Life, they are what they are. But Saint and Sinner and Rock and Roll Hell, where you hear it evolving and, hey, Gino, we don't talk like that here. Just the banter and studio dialogue. It takes you into the studio and puts you on the wall, while they're recording this. Obviously, Betrayed was a single, but it's just, and Not for the Innocent has been mastered beautifully, even though that circulated for many years. But it's absolutely spectacular. And now we know the details on, alternate mix for, Partners in Crime. Yeah, 16B. That's the version that was released a Live 3 era. So it's clearly got a different drum track and I think a different bass track and obviously different mix and all of that side of things. So we finally understand its context, that it was obviously in the running on Creatures for quite a long time in the timeline because of the dates on the rail box in the accompanying paper in the box. So the only thing that I think is a throwaway is the single edit, but I get why you have to include it there because it is mastered slightly different and it doesn't have the fade back in. And the Creatures remix from 85 has to be there, but it really does a great job of telling the story here. Mark. Did I go to you, or is
No.
it your turn?
No, you didn't go to me.
We can. Anton mentions a good part. Oh shit, keep going. We can punch it out. I don't think that's the right phrase, Gene.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, just 3 interesting. It's My Life. Great song. For me, though, I found it was a little sizzly. I found it was when I listened to it on headphones. It was like, ooh, I found it a little top endy. Probably because they probably made so many copies of that song and it was used so many times. I mean, probably a little bit of a tape degeneration going on there, but it's still overall it sounds great. I just found that compared to some of them, it had a little bit more sizzle to it than some of the other ones, but nothing terrible. Not for the Innocent. I've always loved that version because of the split vocal. I always thought that should have been the way they did the song, even if it was on Lick It Up. You know what I mean? I think they should have kept it that way. I thought it was a much better presentation of the song. I'm a big fan of these sort of, studio run-throughs, take 1, take 2, false starts and stuff like that, because you like hearing the banter. It feels like you're right in there with them, and especially if you're listening to it on headphones, you really get the vibe of it when that happens. Betrayed, we got to hear that before when it came out early, and it's a great song. That's another one of those songs where you kind of wonder, what would that have replaced if they did use it, on the album. I like these alternate mixes because there are always these little minor things you can kind of hear. Excuse me. Within it, like sometimes the guitar may be up a hair louder, maybe the vocals down a bit, maybe the drums are a bit louder. There's always just something in it where people sit there and say, I don't know. And I mean, when you look at the numbers, 16B, Creatures of the Night, alternate mix 19. So before all these ones, there are so many other mixes of these songs. And, going through my own catalog of stuff, I have some of my songs, 22 different mixes of it. So it is possible that there are many different versions of the song. And sometimes it's just as subtle as the backing vocals might be lower or the guitar solo might be louder. It's just something is there that made them redo it. Now, the one thing that I was always curious about listening to Lonnie's favorite song on here, Rock and Roll Hell, is when did that introduction come into play? Because all of these songs start with that dun, 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 dun. Where was that? Dun, 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 dun. When did that come into play? I'm always wondering when that got put in. Was that like a last minute, 11th hour cut and paste to the top of the song after they had already done it? Or I was always wondering, where did that come in? Because when we're listening to this, that doesn't get played, so interesting there for that. I'd like to know where.
Well, look at the dates on these. I mean, it's already last minute anyway. In September the 10th and 15th are the 2 different dates for those 3 takes. So that's way towards the end. I mean, that's even after Not for the Innocent had been cut.
Yeah.
So that's a very good point, Mark. One I haven't considered.
Yeah, because it just makes you wonder, like when did they go in and do that? And was it? And here's the other thing: was that a part of another song that didn't get used, and they just said, "Hey, that would be a good top part for this song. Let's just cut it in, fly it in, and put it in." Who knows? There could be many things that were done to make that introduction of the song. The I Love It Loud single edit. I like single edits too because there's always something in there that's different. Of course, there's no fade back in. That's the main thing on it. And the Creatures of the Night remix, like you guys said, it has to be there, if nothing, just for historical purposes, because that was something that Kiss fans kind of talked about later in the years about how, I missed the sort of bombastic, heavily reverbed version compared to this one, right? So, and now we have both versions. You can always compare them.
Yeah, and I have seen comments on the FAQ and other message boards. It's like, why aren't the other 85 remixes? Because that's the only 85 song that was actually remixed. The rest of the 1985 album was affected by remastering and slight re-EQ for the production preparation. So that's why there's a slight sonic difference to all of the album in 85 versus 82, but only one song was explicitly remixed, and that was to roll off some of the bottom end, as Eric put it. And when you listen to it next to Look It Up, you can see why they're making it a little bit more uniform to my ears. And again, it's very subjective. They're trying to make the 2 a little bit more alike. All right, the live, that's disc 4s and 5. So obviously some of these soundboards leaked prior. So what Kiss fans get from all of that stuff is a representation of the 10th anniversary tour. And I think this is a home run. I actually like this and how they've approached combining what are a bunch of partial shows, each which have faults in various places, each of which have pluses and minuses for some of the rarer songs. And that is, of course, Rock and Roll Hell and Keep Me Coming, and how they manipulate it. And the mastering and fade work of making Unified show is absolutely spectacular. I'm going to go to Mark last because as a technical person, he's more likely to have picked up anything that shouldn't be there. So Ken, live show, does this take you back to those 3 shows that you went to in 1983? And take you to that happy place and present the tour in all its glory? And does it sonically live up in your mind to what you remember at the time?
Yeah, well, yeah, it kind of take me back, listen to it live. Sonically, I probably was a lot louder because I was right there up front. But yeah, they did a good job of piecing those together where it's flowed really well, like a regular show or shows. So that was really good, though. Yeah, we like to be the completist and have the full shows, which were obviously leaked before the box came out. But I think they did a real good job, and I enjoyed it. And I was listening to it. I was like, yeah, I kind of remember when they're doing certain parts of those songs, and I was like, oh, I kind of remember what was going on. I kind of started to visualize the time and where I was at and at those shows and what was going on with the stage, the whole atmosphere and everything. So it was really good. I think they did a great job on it. It was kind of seamless, how they put it together. So good job there.
Yeah, I'll come back to you for part 2 of this disc, which is, of course, the bonus live performances and sound effects. But let's leave those alone to be separate conversation pieces. Lonnie,
I think it's excellent. We were when the box was announced, and we got the track listing, and we were talking about wondering why they did it this way, and we all kind of agreed on that those there was no perfect show from those shows that leaked, and by doing this and combining it, it kind of gives us the best of everything. But you're able to give us a show you're able to give us what turns into like almost what could have been like an Alive Type 3 type of disc with versions of Keep Me Coming and Rock and Roll Hell, and just hearing this lineup straight through a concert, giving you the best of these performances, which is what Alive is, what Alive 2 and Alive 3 are. So I think it was the perfect way to do it, to be honest with you. And this lineup just sounds great, and we all talk about this lineup, and Ken was fortunate enough to see 3 Creatures shows from this tour. So I think this is just a great representation of what those people who were lucky enough to saw these shows got. I think they did a great job, and doing it this way was the right move, 100%.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't be against this being released as a standalone product, perhaps flipping out some of the songs that were used as, bonuses to construct, a faux show again. But if you think about the price of the box, digitally or physically, it's still cheaper than going to watch Vinny wank on a tank. All right, Mark, give us your technical and subjective opinion on the live.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. One of the things that I don't think people forget, but when maybe don't realize is that Kiss is a very visual band, obviously, and they run around on stage and they do a lot of antics and to keep you entertained while they play, which makes
Mark's saying something
Kiss
controversial, so he's
wanted
being
a more-
censored at the moment.
Wow.
Sorry, your Wi-Fi just
Am I back?
Yes,
you're
sir.
back.
Okay. So basically, what I was trying to say is that when you're recording, it's very much like being under a microscope. Okay, and every little miscue or little flub that you do while playing guitar or drums or anything gets amplified or magnified 100 times. That's why when you listen to songs like Creatures of the Night at the beginning, when they kick in, kiss, Paul's guitar chords are way out of tune. He's bending those strings so much because he's probably jumping around and doing his hand thing. So none of that was in tune, okay, when he was playing that. So the reason why you record multiple shows is because you find the best version of that song and use that, okay? Now, why do you think they did all these overdubs and stuff for Live 1 and Live 2? Because this stuff is all over the place, all kinds of flubs and miscues and wrong chords and stuff like that. So you construct a good show out of this, right? Out of many different shows. And I think it turned out well. I think it sounds really good. I think the performances have a lot of energy. I think it's very honest, this show. I mean, Ken, who's been to these shows, could probably tell you that as far as energy goes, they probably did a good job capturing the energy of a Kiss show from that time period. Now, a lot of people were saying how they were surprised about how terrible Vinny was live. And yeah, there's moments where he's a little skunky on notes and didn't play some of the solos probably too well. But again, you got to think of the environment that he's in. He's in a live concert performance, energy from the crowd coming on to him. He doesn't probably think about, okay, I got to make sure I play this sweep picking part exactly perfectly here. Otherwise, somebody in the seventh row is going to say something. No, I mean, he's just going to go and try to entertain people. And I think that from that way, he did a good job. That's why I always was hoping that these guys would include video in their boxes, because you get a better idea of it when you watch it, not just hear it. Because if you just hear a Kiss show, man, you hear a lot of problems with it performance-wise, and I'm not mocking them. A lot of other bands had problems like that too, all right? But I think that the songs were great. Some of the songs on here we didn't get to hear in any other tour, like Keep Me Coming. They did once or twice maybe. So you have it on here. And I think overall it's a good performance. Like I said, you have to go in it thinking though that if you were expecting a perfect performance, I think you're not going to get it here. There's a great story, I think, from way back where Kiss tried to do what they considered a really well-performed show, and Bill Aucoin apparently reamed them out after the show saying, what the hell was that? Because they weren't moving around as much. They were very stationary, but they said, well, we played so good, but Bill didn't like it because it wasn't entertaining visually. So you got to keep that in mind when you listen to a show like this.
Yeah, Kiss has always been about feel and running around and moving, and Paul's dancing, doing his Star Child thing, and Gene's doing his demon thing, and Eric's playing like a madman, and Vinny is wearing Ace's boots for 2 of these shows. So, he's new to performing live in boots, even though he's been walking around in them. That's a completely different scenario. He doesn't even have, I think, his guitars. He didn't have all his gear yet. This is Sioux City. This is show number 2 on the tour, and Rockford number 3, because nothing is known to circulate or exist from Bismarck. So it really is early in the tour, and the sound man is clearly doing the best he can, learning in a different era, arena than to what they rehearsed in. So it's all very organic, all very natural. And people who criticize this is a soundboard. This is what a good soundboard to me sounds like. This is a damn sight better than a Destroyer bootleg audience recording, even a high quality one.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I want on these sorts of releases, and what they've done with it, it's beautifully equalized. So what limited work you can do with a 2-track cassette recording is not much. You can sweeten it ever so slightly. And if Anton's still watching, he'll correct me because he's very good at this stuff. But where that really shows through, the quality of the work is actually on the bonus live, because you get King of the Nighttime World, which was previously unknown to have ever been performed by the Vinny lineup. and how they sweeten that, which is pretty dog bad on the original circulating recording, to make it match nicely with the rest of the stuff is fantastic. So this really is an extremely good execution to showcase the first full proper live audio recording of Eric Carr. I mean, yeah, we've got Animalized live uncensored, but you know, you can't measure these against each other because they're completely different beasts. I like those bonus tracks, how they've included them. Yeah, you might say they're space filler, but you get a second performance of Rock and Roll Hell. You get I Want You from Rockford. So they really do go all out to present as much of that material as possible. And I think there's still possibilities. When those soundboards leaked, I made my own faux live show just like this. So maybe that's why I'm really gung-ho about it, because I did similar before this came out and did it slightly differently, but I love how this sounds. Absolutely spectacular. Lonnie, back to you for the bonus live performances. You think those are worthy of inclusion, or whether they're just filler?
No, I think they're great. The Nighttime World is excellent to have on there. I think they're great. I think it's just a good, just more of a representation of that lineup, and I think it's great that they threw these extra ones at us with I Want You and Strutter and things that and I know there's other versions. I mean, we had another version of Rock and Roll Hell, which I think is great, and and I still, it's fine, just kidding, and I still love you, but I think they're great. They're definitely worthy of inclusion. I just think it just gives us more of a sample of this band live on that tour. I think it's great.
Yeah, and it is flawed. But Mark, the bonus tracks, your thoughts on those? Worthy?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, we're Kiss fans. We could never get enough of this stuff. I mean, I know we've been joking about Rock and Roll Hell.
I don't know. Lonnie's probably had too much Rock and Roll Hell for one.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a live performance. I think studio wise, it can get a little monotonous after all. But live, it's a little bit of a different beast. And having King of the Nighttime World, that was great. The song that doesn't really appear very often during this time period, I'm assuming. Yeah, and Strutter too, and I Still Love You. I mean, I Still Love You is probably one of Paul's crowning achievements, and especially on this tour, he gets to show off vocally on this song. So yeah, I think it's good. I don't think it's a waste of space. I mean, what else would you have put on there, really? I mean, so I think it's a good idea that they put these extra songs on there. So
don't know, another 8 cuts of Rock and Roll Hell would suit me.
Yeah, maybe.
Ken.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good job. I don't know what else is out there. I mean, I'm sure there is some other soundboards. If it was later in the tour, I mean, I was at the end of the tour, so I think Vinny was, all good by that time. Probably, accustomed to being in the booths and accustomed to what he's gonna, what he needs to play during the concert and that sort of stuff. So, I mean, the closest I got to that was, I have a bootleg of I think it's the Universal Amphitheater.
Yeah,
that one.
I had gold standard.
Yeah, I had that one. But yeah, if there was a soundboard of that would have been fantastic. But as it is, it works. It works just fine.
What about the bonus tour sound effects, Ken? Because I've already deleted those from mine. I don't ever want to hear those again.
I thought we might use one of those as a tank for the intro to this podcast. But anyway, yeah,
a copyright violation ding every single time.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that they have the. The turbines, you kind of hear what's going on. They use the jet turbines, and then the tank, comes in, and you hear the tracks, the tank tracks, the squeakiness, and that sort of stuff. It's cool. I mean, during the show, it was cool. When the first time watching it and hearing those guys, like, oh, you see the tank, is like, oh wow, they actually put the effort in and actually put tank sounds in there, which is cool. And then the other parts where Gene's the wind and stuff for his bass solo and the bell that they continued to use, going forward. A lot of that stuff, bells when he was going to do this, blood spitting and that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's all kind of cool, different, and you even get the firehouse siren. So you could use that for something else if you have a need for it. Scare your neighbor or something. turn up the volume.
Yeah.
It's like, look, what's going on outside? Where's the fire engines? But anyway, yeah, it's all cool to hear that stuff. I mean, it's a little extra added thing. I'm surprised they actually had it. Really.
Yeah, and again, it's really cool to hear what was in the show, because a lot of that was buried in the audience bootlegs that have circulated. Even some of the other ones, you don't really get to hear the full, to hear that stuff. And now we get to hear what it was. That I don't need to hear it again is just beside the point. I'm glad that it's included. Lonnie.
Yeah, I think it's cool that they still have that stuff and that they included it on there. I mean, it's really just emptying what you have, and here is everything that we could possibly give you for creatures. I think it's cool that they included it. Again, is it something you're, like Julian said, he already deleted them, but is it something I'm really going to go seek after to listen to? No, but I think it's cool that it's there, and I think it's really cool that they still have this stuff. So I think it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's unusual, but Kiss fans got added value with this box set, that they now have how many ringtones to choose from to piss off their wives or significant others. Mark.
It is. If you're talking about waste of space, now you found it. Here you go. This stuff is complete waste. But I'll tell you one thing. You know who's jumping up and down and absolutely high-fiving each other because of this? All those tribute bands out there. Yeah! Finally, we got a good source for a siren. We finally got Gene's wind and gargoyle sound effects. And we got the turbines. We can use it all now for our show. I guarantee you're going to hear all these cover bands are going to be integrating these sounds into their show. I bet you. Okay? Because, they have official sounds from Kiss. Now, so what better thing to use for their version of Firehouse than the actual sirens, Or they can make their own introductions using the turbines and the tank sounds and all this stuff. I understand Lonnie's point where they said, listen, people are complaining that we don't give enough stuff on these boxes. Let's just give them everything. They literally took the bucket and dumped everything out and said, here, you want everything? Here's everything,
Then where's that demo for creatures that they talk about in the liner notes?
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, I think it's a good idea that they did that, and in that sense, there's limited complaining, I think. But I'm telling you though, cover bands are on it. They're going to be using. I guarantee you, they're going to be using these sounds.
Yeah, and then Mr. Simmons and co. will come knocking. Hello, you need to have a licensing fee for that, which you would actually, because they are now published by Universal Music.
But if they alter it slightly, they can say that's not the same version.
Yeah. All right, so the last disc, not all of you will have even heard or be able to hear. I threw the Atmos disc 6 into my Blu-ray and had to listen to it as stereo mixed downs because I ported the audio out into a Zoom recorder at 96K, and then it basically flattened them, so I don't have any surround speakers to get the full benefit. But this is where I do have an issue. There's a distinct difference in volume between the three versions on that disc that jump from the very quiet to the very loud to the very quiet. Is I think the pattern that the three follow. I don't get a lot of benefit out of it, so I don't know what it would be like with a proper speaker system. But it doesn't seem from the flattened files that there's a whole lot of Steven Wilsoning going on in these, because they're not by Steven Wilson. They're by another fella. But also, I don't think the material itself has that much flexibility to be able to do anything tremendously creative. It seems the bias on the surround effect seems to be on the drums and bass. A lot more the bass, which is noticeable in the flattened mixes that I've been listening to. It's still good. It's different. You get to listen to a lot more of the bass work, which I actually find interesting, because when you're listening to the drums and bass on a recording, that's really the foundation. That's the backbeat for a song, pretty much. What I feel they miss with is, I've had the pleasure of being in a studio listening to multi-tracks of Eric Carr's drums, And that can be an immersive experience. I mean, it's absolutely amazing when you've got all the speakers in a studio and Eric Carr dialed up to 11. I mean, it's a fucking Disney ride. I wish that they had been able to do something with those sound formats that really presented the majesty of his drumming more effectively and creatively than it does. But it's still great to have them. Hopefully I'll find someone who does have the proper gear and proper setup to go and listen to those. And it's also a really nice touch that they included the I Love It Loud music video in 5.1 and the other sound format as well. Anyone else had any luck listening to disc 6? Well,
DS6 or whatever.
The Atmos.
the Atmos disc, the Blu-ray disc.
I mean, I don't have the setup for it, so I just kind of, though I did play it, the regular, it's one of those stereo versions or whatever, which it sounded fine. I was like, okay, yeah, it's nothing extra for me on that, so I just kind of put it. I think I watched the video on that disc. I Love It Loud once, the actual video that they put on there, which we've seen before. But and then I pretty much put that disc away.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same with Destroyer, but those I had to listen in the same way that I flattened them down in the same method that I did before. And that's a vastly different experience. But then again, there's a vastly different approach and a vastly different source for them to be working with too. So completely, it's apples and oranges, really. You can't expect every Atmos mix to sound as majestic or as bombastic or whatever as Destroyer, because that's really kind of something else, as much as Mark doesn't appreciate. Yeah.
Just something else indeed.
Let's talk about some of the packaging and chalk keys.
Hey, before you go there, I just want to address one thing. Jamie put here said they needed LPs in these boxes instead of on CDs. No, I don't think that's a good idea. Number one, you know how much that box set? You think $300 and some odd is expensive for a box set? You know how much it would have cost if this was all put on vinyl? You're looking at $700-800. I mean, when you have multiple LPs for like one thing, like one CD would probably be like 2 vinyl. So you spread that out into how many vinyl? It would be expensive to do that on vinyl. I think the CD is the best way to go. Plus, you probably don't have to wait as long to get CDs done as you would vinyl. But yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. So anyways, go on to what you were saying, Julian.
Hater.
They could have done both.
No, didn't Guns N' Roses do? Well, where's Lonnie? Did we go over an hour and he walked off?
Yeah.
I think it could be done, but I think logistically it becomes a problem. So that's been one of the big complaints that I have seen again on the message board is the color of the blue doesn't match what is on the prototypes, which are pre-construction. They're strictly done from a color palette to show you what the product might look like. As anyone who's ever bought anything knows that results may vary in production. And apparently Tom has explained this on the Kiss My Wax group to a post that credited how Kiss can't get anything right, is that he ordered a particular color of pellet and the pressing plant used a different one. So what are you going to do? Scrap the whole batch and not sell it? Blue. It's still blue. It still matches up with typical what Kiss is in the cover. Well, it's a typical Kiss fan. It doesn't have to be light blue. As long as it's got some color, it could be bluish purple, like this background that we have here. But whatever, that's a whole different ball of wax. The chalkies. I went through the box quickly. My favorite stuff in the box is what is strongly recommended and not enough people are actually reading or commenting on yet. And I know it takes time to digest all of it. And also people are still waiting for their orders to arrive. You got to read the book and you got to go through that newspaper. There is so much information. It's just absolute gold. You want gold? They gave you gold. They gave you track sheets. They gave you real boxes. You got dates. You got data. I mean, it's an absolute mine of nuggets buried in there. Not always in the most digestible format because that newspaper gives everyone the heebie-jeebies because it's so thin and they're like, I'm going to ruin it trying to read it. Well, I scan mine so that I can actually read it because the print's so small. I'm sitting there on my computer trying to read it. And holy crap, that to me is the box. I don't need anything else in that box other than the newspaper and the book, because that is what appeals to me. The guitar picks, they're beautiful. 5 of them, glow in the dark. There are the Chris Hoffman prints, which are beautiful. Great job, Chris. Really, really good job. I'm glad your art's in an official project. My folder, both copies that the Chris Hoffman prints and newspaper were housed in, came reverse folded. So it's going to be, which one's rare?
I think a lot of them did.
Yeah. Everyone's is a misfold. So those are really cool. The buttons. The buttons are the biggest loss in this thing because they're so small, they're pointless. Way too small. The badge, or the sew-on badge, very nice. The recreation press kit is beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. Again, great quality. The postcards with Ace and the rest of the band from the Killer sessions, or it may actually be Elder sessions at that point, look spectacular. The colors are beautiful. It's vivid, but everything's printed on nice, stock. The iron-on T transfer I may actually use because it's really cool. Ken.
Yeah, I mean it's all pretty good. Like you said, the buttons were kind of small. The the guitar picks. I looked at the guitar picks. I said, okay, they're glow in the dark and that sort of thing. I was almost thinking that they could have replicated the original guitar picks from the Creatures tour, but I guess someone would have tried to sell those. And then the iron-on, I mean, and the stickers, those are okay. The best stuff is, you got the tour book, which, I have the original tour book, but the replication of that, and then the press kit with the press photo in there, and the promo paperwork in there. And then, like you said, all the photos and things like that are very, very good, very cool. And just going on to another thing that Mark brought up about the vinyl, or the question related to the vinyl, they could have done a separate thing. I mean, the Beatles did it. They have a CD, the Revolver, for instance. They have a CD version, and then they have the vinyl version. And then they could have put replications of some of the original stuff that they had. Like this is a single, Creatures of the Night and War Machine and Rock and Roll All Night. That's original that nice. I bought back when the album came out. I got that, and they could have done. I'm surprised, they could have done another picture disc, right? And then this is the thing that I thought when Mark was talking about put something small in there. Well, there's a couple of things. One they could have done is that double track thing of the
the limited edition autographed.
The autograph, one side kind of thing. It's double tracked the song of Creature of the Night and Rock and Roll Night on this side of the.
Oh yeah.
And the other side is
from England.
Which is very nice. I mean, it has like autographs, engraved, etched into it. And then the one other thing that they could have done is the single of "I Love It Loud." This one here,
the movable tongue.
Yeah,
there it is with the tongue. If you pull this down, is it working? Not quite working, but it sticks out. The tongue kind of, it's supposed to move the tongue up and down, but by moving this thing here. So I mean, they could have done some other things, but
that would have made sense. The 7-inch, I think, if you're going to do that, just to keep the cost kind of not ridiculous, I think that would have made sense. That makes sense. Look at those eyes there.
Oh yeah, you can make it go to the crazy eyes.
Yeah, so Martin is right. There was a cool point of sale item, which is the slip mat.
Yeah, my store didn't have it.
I didn't. I still haven't been to a store to buy anything because I'm still waiting on everything. But I think another criticism: the poster choice is fantastic. Posters are great, but the folds in them, that just kind of hurts because those would look so good framed and signed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Ken's pulling out all the British big guns.
I bought all this Creature stuff right when the album came out. There was an import record store opened at that time, and I remember went in there and looked at all the stuff. I like, whoa, the kid in the candy store at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll bring up that question again. Is the mix the 1982 or the 85? Yes, it's the 82. Listen to the end of the title track. You'll hear all the reverb in the world going on, and that's the easiest way to tell the difference between that and the 85 remix. So yeah, they got it right for this one because, of course, they didn't in 2014, but things do happen. A lot of A and Bing does take place. So, Mark, going back to your 2 CD, that is the 2 CD version that you've got, right? What do you think of that? Do you think that does a good job of summarizing the box set for a deluxe treatment?
Absolutely. I think, honestly, if you're one of these people who maybe are new to Kiss or unsure about if you want to drop that much money for it, get this first, seriously, because this has a good example of what you're going to get if you've got buy the more expanded version of it on the deluxe box, because everything that we talked about on here is represented in some form here, minus the Atmos. Okay. But the albums here remixed, you have the rarities, you have the studio run-throughs, you have the live stuff. So it's all nicely done. There's some nice pictures in here too that come with it as well. The CDs look nice, how they did it, and the booklet is pretty cool too. I mean, you have like the little recreation of the boxes here and stuff like that, right? And so I think it's worth having. Sure, the information that Julian talked about that's in the book, that's worth getting the box set probably just for that. I mean, that's the one thing that's making me kind of cry right now, not having the boxes. That I would have loved to be able to read what's on that Gotham newspaper thing, because that's exactly the kind of information that I love reading, and I can't because I don't have the box. But if you have the money for it, I would recommend to buy the box. But if you don't have it and you want to get a good representation of it, buy this. Also the 3LP, but unless you want to wait, and have your record played in Chicago for about a week or two extra before it gets to you, you might want to wait on the LP. So just go out and buy this. Seriously.
All right. Final question, and we're going to start with Lonnie on this. Thanks for coming back. I thought I'd bored you to death. What is your overall take on this box? From, again, you're still waiting on some stuff to arrive, right, but does it exceed or match or not match Destroyer? And do you think it addresses some of the criticisms for that previous product?
I think it exceeds Destroyer, in my opinion. They got it right, and the biggest reason why is they got it right with the live show. That was the biggest takeaway. That was the biggest
flub.
Biggest flub with Destroyer's word I'm looking for. It was just the biggest disappointment with Destroyer, is that they could have gotten it right with they should have gotten it right with a live show. Kiss is such a live band and live experience that you just just threw that out there as the live disc. And with this, I think they took their time and they got it right. And the way they did it with piecing it together to give you basically everything you could possibly want was the right way to do it. And the demos and outtakes and everything else are great on this too. I think it exceeds my expectations. And I think the music is great. From what you guys are saying, like the packaging, I haven't gotten mine yet, but it sounds like the packaging is really good too. But for us, I think for us and for most people that are watching too, the packaging is great. But at the end of the day, it is about the music, and that's why we're here. And I think from what we're getting, they basically emptied what they have, and that's what we've been wanting them to do for the longest time, is give us what you have. Stop sitting on everything. And 2 years in a row now, they've done that. I think it's great, and before long we'll be talking about what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. Just hope they do keep doing it. I'm very appreciative. I'm still digesting this thing, and it's going to take a while. So we're only a week in to living with this product, and a lot of you out there are still waiting for yours. So it's a gift that's going to continue to give the more we listen to it. Mark, your overall hit miss.
I like it a lot. I mean, I think it's definitely better than the Destroyer, and it's not just because I don't like Destroyer. I just think that, like Lonnie said, the big fiasco about the live show on the Destroyer thing really hurt it. I think because people knew that there was much better versions of a concert available for that, and we didn't get it. This is exactly what we wanted and more, I think. And it's also such a great album, to really try to kind of take a deep dive, and it has so much history. We had the benefit of like the Killers stuff, and all these songs and demos that they did in between transitional periods that we got to listen to and stuff. So it's really a good time period too to do a box like this as well, which makes you think ahead. Is there another period like that? What other periods do they have that has such a good transitional period? What period can they go to next that has, different things that they can mine and get us to listen to? But this box is really good. I was happy that it was done, and I'm going to keep my eyes open, obviously, for a cheaper version of the box, because I do want to get the box eventually, because it's just worth having after Julian talked about all the stuff that's on there. But it's a great thing, much better than Destroyer, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we haven't gone into as much detail about the box, the physicality of it. Kiss My Wax did their, unboxing video with the designer Tom German, pardon me, and did an exquisite deep dive into every aspect about that. For me, it's 100% a hit. It lets me know that there is still a lot that I don't know, and we don't know, and things to correct in the timeline and to learn, and to also know that they have some of this stuff. I didn't know about those, Penny Lane demos, though it makes sense that they were recording everything at Ace in the Hole. The Penny Lane demos themselves look like they come from a mix down reel. So there's still, I guess, the hope that the multi-tracks still exist. Again, hard to tell. There's still lots of questions, but they fixed a lot of the problems that I had with the Destroyer box, mainly the live. And I like this new approach. It's very interesting. It makes it more consumable as a product rather than 10 partial soundboards. Well, Lonnie doesn't want to listen to Rock and Roll Hell 19 times, even though there isn't that many. But to listen to all of those, this takes the best and condenses it. I think that there'll be plenty of feedback from others that maybe help guide if they continue to do these projects. But this one is by far just absolutely spectacular from start to finish for me anyway, and that's ultimately what matters to me. Ken.
Yeah, the template was there for having done Destroyer, and they did a pretty good job, and people voiced their disapproval of the live Paris thing, debacle, I guess I'll call that. But the temp's there, and they obviously stuck to it with some minor changes, and it's I think it is going to evolve a little bit and change a little bit. I'm guessing they're going to keep doing tour books and press kits for upcoming box sets and that sort of thing. But I would like them. I mean, we asked for a video. We got one video on the Blu-ray. I think they should utilize.
There you go. They finally included video. What are you complaining about?
I know, yeah. But if they're gonna,
and as Jamie Ingram points out, the glow in the dark eyes on the LP.
Oh yeah, the material. On I think the vinyl that has glow in the dark eyes. So I'm looking forward to checking that out in the dark. But as for the other video that they could have done, I'm hoping that they will do that in the future. Add more video, concert. Could have done the Rio whatever thing. Creatures.
Do it separate.
The Brazil, whatever. You want to do it separate? Still waiting for Kissology 4? You're actually waiting for that still. Like we're waiting for our device
soundboard. You got off the soundboard going with the audio. Why not?
Coming at the same time.
Just have separate video.
I keep hearing this. Okay, yeah. Well, maybe they're saving it for a great box set that will have all the video that there's possibly out there. But I'll wait. We'll see what happens with that. But anyway, so yeah, like I said, the template's there. It's good. I think it's pretty even with Destroyer box. I'm just I'm looking forward to them to do more. Keep it going.
All right. Well, those are words of wisdom from the voice of reason. Keep it going and do more. Sounds like what we all want in life.
Get back to
More.
work.
Yes.
More. All right.
More.
So that's our review of the music on, Creature of the Night. Hopefully, if you're waiting for yours, it arrives soon. But for now, from Lonnie, Mark, Ken, and myself, thanks for joining us and listening to our opinions on the box. And we'll see you next time. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.